Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Pascal Lambert, President of the French Chamber of Commerce, and I welcome all of you for this annual general meeting for 2020 and 2021. More than 100 people have registered to this event today, so thank you for all of you. I would like to recognize in particular the presence of His Excellency, our French Ambassador Marc Abassour, and to Hervé Oxenbein, the head of the Regional Economic Services at the French Embassy. As you can see, for the second year in a row, we are holding this AGM in a remote manner for the reasons that you know. Also, unlike last year, this year is one of the assembly where we need also to vote for the new board. As a reminder, we elect a new board every 2 years, and all of you should have received an email yesterday to vote on the platform election body, and I'm glad to see that as of now about 60% of the people who elected to vote have already voted. So for those of you who have not voted as yet, you can vote anytime, and of course at the end of the AGM, and you see in front of you the agenda, we will conclude the vote at about 5:45. I will be joined during this AGM by Karine Lespayandel, our Executive Director, who will go with me through the annual report, as well as Erwan Bar, the General Secretary, who will also control the process and also explain to us some of the procedure for the vote in particular. And Stéphane Thierry, our Treasurer, who will go through the financial report on the point 3. So on this, I will let the floor initially to Erwan.
Thank you, Pascal. Before we start with the first topic of the agenda, as you said, there were 100 members who have registered for this AGM and 26 more have sent in proxies. So the quorum being 30 members present or represented, we do have a quorum for this AGM. As Pascal was saying, our AGM is 100% digital, so you have received the invitation by email, and all the documents for the agenda have been made available on the website. In addition, as Pascal was saying, you have received an email with a link to an app called Election Buddy that will allow you to vote today, like many of you have done already. For those of you who have proxies, you must have received as many emails as you have voting rights. So if you have 2 proxies, you must have received 3 emails, one for yourself and one for each of your proxy. As explained in the email, you could vote before the AGM and you can vote until 6 p.m. today. If you have any technical issue with the app, please do not use the Zoom chat, but instead send a message to the email address that is on your screen, agm@fccsingapore.com. So now we can proceed to vote for the first resolution of this meeting, which is the approval of the minutes of last year's AGM. These minutes were posted on the website. Feel free to vote now or later, but remember that voting will close at 6 p.m. sharp. The results of the votes of each resolution will be made available tonight on the website before 8 p.m. So Pascal, on to you for the second topic of the agenda.
Thank you, Erwan. So we will move through the annual report and through the presentation of the activity. And I will move on page 5, Karine. Okay, so as you can imagine, the activity for the Chamber has been affected, like many of you, by COVID. You will see later when Stéphane will take you through the financial report that it has been a challenging year for us, even though I'm glad to say that we have been able to limit the damage, if I may say. And you will see that even though we show a loss for the year, but it's a loss which is relatively minimal. The issue for us is, of course, to project ourselves in the future in a situation that we cannot really predict. I was reading the minute of the AGM of last year, and of course, at the same time last year, we were hoping that we will get out of this situation in the next 5 to 6 months, which has not been the case. So during this crisis, we have been able to adapt our business model. We have been affected, of course, by not being able to support the flow of business that we, one of our mission, which is to accompany French companies in their prospection to Singapore and to the region. It is something that we have been able to do remotely, but as you can imagine, the volume would have been affected. But during this crisis, we have been able also to accompany our members in Singapore in particular by providing some support through collaborative platform. Of course, also, like many of you, this crisis has accelerated our journey towards sustainability by also being more present with our members in some initiative and in digitalization. Many of the events that we, and all the events that we used to do physically have all been done in a digital manner, and Karin will take you through this later. I would like also to mention, you remember that last year, one of the significant factor for the French Chamber is the implementation of the Concession de Service Public, the CSP, between us and Business France, which also prompted the implementation of Team France Export in Singapore. I'm glad to say that in spite of COVID, the relationship, of course, with Business France remains very strong. And there is a clear understanding that even if we are below budget, given the KPIs that we have been given as part of the CSP, this is obviously well understood, and the relationship are very strong. An important event also last year was the finalization of our strategic review, which is being implemented, and you will see here the 4 pillars: adopting a customer-first approach, strengthening collaboration with partners, continuous delivery of valuable results, and fostering collaboration and efficiency. What has been important for us, and probably accelerated by COVID, is the need also for us to be more integrated in the community, locally and in the region. And I would like to say also that in terms of advocacy, we have been able to accelerate our contact with not only with the Singapore companies, which is part of our core activity, but also with the Singapore authorities. We have, I mean, as you know, we have an historical relationship with EDB, which continue to work extremely well. And during the crisis, we've been able from time to time to intervene or to ask EDB to help or to support some of our members when it was required. But also we have deepened our relationship with MTI, MOM, Ministry of Development that we met once, but also more recently with IMDA in support of the French tech. As an example also, you will know, you will have noticed that this coming Friday, we have a dialogue with the Minister of Environment, Grace Fu. On the 15th of June, we are invited to a dialogue with the MTI, and the 29th of June with MOF. On the next slide, Karin, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, and this is done not only in our own name, but also by strong integration and closer cooperation with the other chambers, because obviously during this period, we can sometimes act alone, but it's also important to act in concert with our other chambers. So here we have the Eurocham, and I would like also to thank, now we are at the board of the Eurocham, and we are represented by Emmanuel White, and before this by Nicolas Ricard. I would like to thank both of them. But also we have stepped up our activity with SICC and with SBF. And many of the events that I mentioned earlier are also organized by SBF, and we are one of the chambers invited to this. I will go very quickly to some of these events which took place during the year. You know that we are still actively engaging with the CEOs to share their experience. You will see here that we still managed to organize a French food mission in 2020 as part of the agreement which was signed between France and Singapore for the development of exchange on alimentation and agriculture. And healthcare is also one of the focus for the chamber. This fits well with initiatives that our ambassador took a few months ago, which was to engage with the Singapore government as part of the Emerging Stronger Task Force, where together with the CCE, with the embassy, we identified 4 areas: EdTech, MedTech, Agritech, and sustainable finance, where we propose to the Ministry and to the EST to cooperate. And right now, under the umbrella of the embassy, we are currently deploying some initiative to participate to these 4 streams within EST. Next slide, Karen. Yeah. Okay, and these are some other events. I don't want to go to spend too much time on this, and you can see the various events which took place. Of course, the Fintech Festival, which still took place last year, and we're still present, even though it was obviously it was remote, but we did manage to, with the French Tech and with the French Embassy, to gather a good number of participants to the French pavilion. Next, Karen. Okay, so we, as part of this dialogue with the authorities, we had the privilege of having the Minister Chen Chun-Sing on the 8th of Jan for an exclusive dialogue with the French Chamber. And we do also continue, you will see at the end of the slide, the dialogue that we continue to have with the CEOs of Singapore companies, and this one, one of the recent one was with URA. And we try to have such a dialogue every 2 months with similar organizations. Yeah. The Asia Startup Summit is, of course, a very important event for us, and it was, we were able at that time, it was it was during this the phase which we hope will come back this coming Monday. I was watching, I think today we had 2 cases in Singapore, so I think the past few days have been promising, so let's wait. But indeed, the Asia Startup Summit was able to be held physically, partly, I mean, in a hybrid manner, so it was a good success. And in the maritime industry, we are very present, and we were happy to witness the signing of this France and Singapore agreement to deepen maritime cooperation. Next slide. SOCIC also, SOCIC continue also to be active and trying to support some of our French companies here in Singapore which need it. And we had a virtual event in May on energy construction infrastructure. Okay, so I should indicate also that I will not represent myself also, as you might have seen on the list, and there is a good reason for this, is that statutorily, nobody can sit at the board of the French Chamber for more than 8 years, and I will come to the end of my 8 years today. But I've been very happy to work with a very cohesive board and exco. So you see here the exco, and I'm also very glad to say that all members of the exco are representing themselves to your vote this today. And at the board also, we have so the total board. On the picture you see 29, but it is 30, and we had 1 departure before. And also here, I believe 24 of the 29 are representing themselves. It's important to mention this because it shows also that we have been able to work in a very cohesive manner, and that all our board members feel very committed and to continue to work for the good of the French Chamber, which is a very important institution for us. I would like to make mention and to thank Philippe Dallet, because Philippe, like me, has served 8 years at the board and therefore cannot represent himself to your vote, but somebody else from CIC is a candidate for him. Okay. And the team of the French Chamber is here, and you'll see, of course, headed by Karine, but with a very, very solid team, and which has done an excellent job in the past year. I would like to thank all of them, and I'm sure Stéphane also during this presentation you will see the results that we have been to achieve in this very difficult environment are actually very good for given the circumstance. So thank you to all of you. Patron members. So here we have, we'd like also to thank our patron member. You will understand also that the patron members and the membership is a fundamental source of revenue for the chamber. So it's very important to count on the support of all of you and of our patron members in particular. And here I would like to acknowledge the 5 new members that we had this year, which are Air Liquide, Dassault Systèmes, Hutchinson, Michelin, and Paul. And also I would like to, you may mention at the very end of the slide, the change of logo of Total, which is now Total Energy. Very nice logo. Okay. Okay, Karine, yours.
Okay, so thank you very much, Pascal, and thank you very much for your 4 years as president of the French Chamber and 8 years at the boards. Really appreciated working with you, and thank you so much. So I'll just continue with an overview of the activities during this past year. You have the annual report, which is available online on the event of the AGM, and which was circulated, of course. So please feel free to browse it, because I'm going to go quite quickly on the presentation, and you will have a much more, I would say, information and highlights, especially for all the committees of the Chamber in this annual report. So just a few words on our membership structure. We have over 600 company and individual members with, as you can see, a very good mix of large corporate SMEs and entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, they represent 26% of our business community, and also a wide variety of sectors represented, the most important one being in retail, tech innovation, professional services, financial, and F&B. But as you see, a very wide variety of sectors. We did manage to organize 225 events a year, and I really want to thank the team and Lydia, our head of member services and communication, because really it's been a tough year. We've had to convert a lot of our events from physical to digital, but we also managed to organize physical events, especially at the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021 until beginning of May. And I think this showed a real cohesion of our business community, a real resilience and willingness also to continue to network and develop business opportunities within our business community. So as you can see, over 7,000 participants in our events, whether physical or digital. This was done through and thanks to the activities of our committees and clubs. And I'd like to thank the co-presidents of the committees. Once again, they are named in the annual report. You can have a look and see, but they've been really involved and they've really helped the team with their contacts, with their knowledge of their sector in order to really bring value to all our members and organize a lot of events to share their expertise, to share contacts and information. We also have new clubs that were created this year. One which is the CEO Club, because we didn't have such a club, and in fact the fact that people could not travel was also a good opportunity somehow, because we had a lot of CEOs based in Singapore, and we did organize a lot of events, small scale events for them, and also a retail club which has been really active this year. So all these clubs, committees helped us organize, as I said, many events. I won't mention them all, and Pascal already cited some of them. We did put the emphasis on sustainability, and I think I do not recall the number of events organized around sustainability topics, but we will really continue and also promoting the good things that our members are doing. We did indeed organize a number of events with CEO of large Singapore corporates, or agencies, because that's part of our strategy to really anchor the chamber within the local ecosystem and develop more relations and opportunities to exchange and network. And of course, we just show some pictures of physical events, but there were a lot of virtual events that were organized. Here are some pictures. The good thing about the digitalization trend is that it really pushed us to organize more events at a regional level. And we know our members in Singapore, a lot of them do cover the whole ASEAN or Asia-Pac region. And so we really developed more relations with our sister chambers in Asia. And we're able to organize, like, for example, virtual regional clubs for our CFOs with the French chamber in India, for example, but also in China, in Hong Kong, even with Dubai. And I think that's something that we will continue, because as the survey that we've just launched starts to show, there's a real willingness from our member to encourage more events at the regional scale, and the digitalization also helps for that. Just side visit luncheons. I mentioned the fact that during some time we did manage to organize some luncheons. It's not the case anymore, but I hope we'll be able to continue soon. So that was a good way also to show our support to our F&B members. And to encourage small, networks among people occupying the same function, whether the CEOs, the CEO Tech Club, the CFO Club, etc. So really a lot of events that were organized, whether physically, digitally, or in a hybrid format. And of course, we continued and pursued really our programs for startup and entrepreneurs. As I mentioned, they're 26% of our membership base. And I'd like to thank the CEOs who have this year agreed to meet on a one-to-one meeting entrepreneurs and startups, because this is really a very nice and win-win exercise. I know they all appreciate it very much. And of course, all the other programs were continued, including the duo mentoring which is done in partnership with the French trade advisors. So I'd like to say really that, I'm sorry, I'm not very good, that it was a very intense year as well for our entrepreneurs, who really needed, of course, the support of their peers, and these monthly meetings that we organize among SMEs, among business entrepreneurs, women, are really much appreciated by our members. Pascal mentioned the Asia Startup Summit. This was a third edition, and it was done in partnership with B2b, with the support of La French Tech and also B2b France. And it was a great event, totally hybrid for the first time. We're using a platform with B2B meetings that were organized both physically for some of them, because we were limited to 50 people in a room, and also digitally. And this edition proved even more successful than the previous ones. Other events, totally digital this time. Pascal mentioned the healthcare B2b Forum, which was held in October, and then the Energy Infrastructure Forum in May. These two events were really large-scale events organized with our sister chambers in ASEAN. And for the first time, we really joined forces to organize this event. And this, I think we will pursue even more, because everybody really appreciated this kind of format. Of course, we would have loved to have a gala dinner. That was not possible. And I know some of you are very frustrated by that. So it was not possible last year. We still hope to be able to organize it. You can pencil the date in your agenda. It's on the 3rd of December this year, if of course we can do it. One thing also which is very important is our collaborative project. Pascal mentioned Sochik, and I'll come back on this. but we also have our smart health platform, which helped us organize the symposium, and the French Lab initiative, which is a joint initiative between the French Chamber, the French Embassy, and the CNRS for researchers that are whether in the private sector and also in the public sector. So and they are very, very active. One event every month is organized. So Chic is our really brand that we love because it's about showcasing French art de vivre in Singapore, French lifestyle and art de vivre. And we have many brands that are in this guide, which is available online. And basically, it's not only showcasing the brands, but also showing experiences. It's kind of blog, if you want, with many articles that are very interesting to read. We are really active, and we partnered with the French Embassy during the Voilà French Festival with numerous French social French experience. And we managed to organize a French market festival physically in April at Dempsey, which was also a nice success. So this brand is really continue to grow. We have always more brands joining, whether F&B, fashion, gastronomy, cosmetics, luxury, lifestyle, etc. So if you don't know this brand yet, please have a look. It's really nice. So that's for the overview, very brief of all our events, activities in Singapore. As you all know, the French Chamber has member services, but which are useful for our members, but also a whole range of services to support companies in France that are interested in prospecting the Singapore market or setting up in Singapore. So it's whether Team France Export and Le Booster. These are the two brands that you have to remember. Team France Export is helping companies do business development. So we call them more like upstream services. And Le Booster is once you have, these companies have decided to set up in Singapore, and it's a whole range of corporate services. So here you have the figures. Once again, you have many more details in the annual report. Feel free to browse. This is all the range of services that are provided to help companies identify business opportunities, set up and run, boost their business, or get help for their development. And here I'd like to mention the Team France Export. The department is headed by Aude Simon with a team of 5 business developers with a sectorial expertise, as you can see, and the range of services include market studies, product testing, B2B matching, learning expedition, tailored private networking events, and company pool managers. So very active department. As you can see some pictures, of course, due to the travel restrictions, not so many companies new companies could come to Singapore. So some of the programs were transformed into digital programs, like the pavilions, for example, which were digital pavilions. We had a very successful food mention, just like Pascal Lambert mentioned it, with over 140 food suppliers and that we supported. And that was really in the context of the MOU that was signed between France and Singapore. And this food mission was also supported by the French Ministry of Agriculture. So I mentioned the upstream services. The downstream services are under the responsibility of Valérie Compsiqueur. And this brand, Le Booster, is a brand that all the chambers are using. And so it's really easy because wherever you go, you would find the same kind of services that are provided. So it's really a one-stop service solution to root your business in Singapore. That includes corporate services. And as you can see, the figures, 18 companies set up, virtual offices, that's domiciliation in our business center, or people and companies hosted in our business center. and very successful activity of visa. As you can see, we have a 97 success, and we have really very professional people at the French Chamber. So if you need a visa, don't hesitate to use these services. For the business, the booster also includes, of course, the recruitment services. And despite the challenging year, we've maintained a high level of placement with 35 successful placements. And of course, adapting to the new trends and you know, the fact that, of course, we have a lot of Singaporeans and PR candidates helped to satisfy our clients' needs. I just want to finish almost my presentation with the network. You know, don't hesitate. We're part of a global, actually, and Asian network of French chambers. And so don't hesitate to ask us to connect you to, you know, our colleagues in the region. As Pascal mentioned, we've really reorganized ourselves for more customer centricity approach. So all of you have an account manager who's responsible really to help and support you. So if you're in need of a contact or you know, even myself, for example, to be connected, I'm sorry, with the director in wherever in Malaysia, I'd be happy to do the introduction. So a lot of partners in Singapore, in France. In Singapore, of course, we work very closely with EDB. During this year, we've also worked extremely closely with the MOM. We've really played an intense role of advocacy because basically representing the voice of French business, we continue to try to explain the issues that our members are facing. And of course, we work closely with other organizations, as Pascal mentioned. And on the French side, we worked extremely closely with all the departments of the French embassy in Singapore, but also the French advisors, the Business France, you know, teams in the region. So all these constantly in connection with them, and of course B2b France, who also have an office in Singapore. I'll just end my presentation with communication. Especially in this digital transformation, we also had to transform ourselves, and we have to communicate. We realized that we have to communicate more and better on what the chamber is offering in terms of services, because we realized that not all our members were really fully aware of the services that the chamber was providing. But also we are like the voice of the French business. So it's also our role to share and circulate the news from our members. So we've been extremely active on social media, especially LinkedIn, where we've increased a lot our presence. And last but not least, we are 100% digital with our network of chambers. So I really encourage you to have a look at our website, and at especially your personal space, your private space, because you all have a login, and I know not all of you know this very well, but this is to manage your personal information, your details, and also find a member in Singapore or in the global network of chambers. All the chambers, or most of them, are now on the same website, on the same CRM, and you have really access to a global network of companies. So I encourage you, and if you have questions on this private space, please do not hesitate to ask your account manager. So I'll finish with this presentation on the activity. Just as a word of conclusion on my side, it was really a challenging year, of course, like for many of you. And we thought initially it would be a couple of months, and now it's 1.5 years almost. But we've been extremely, the whole team has been extremely, thankful to all of you, to our board members for their involvement in the chamber, for your support, for the support of our patron members and all of you. And I think we can be proud really collectively, because it's thanks to your involvement that we managed to do a lot of things and great things. So just on my side, a word of thanks for this year to all of you. Thank you, and I'll pass the mic to Stéphane.
Thank you very much, Karine. So now Stéphane will indeed take us through the financial report. Stéphane, maybe on mute. Stéphane?
We don't hear you, Stéphane.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, it's okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you very much, Karine and Pascal. So I will continue with the financial report, the part you like the most, I'm sure, about this AGM. So yes, as mentioned by Karine and Pascal, it was a challenging year. It was, I would say, financially speaking, a year of adaptation and transformation of the business model of the French Chamber of Commerce. The operating model. There are visible consequences in the financial statements I will present now. The key ideas, to make it simple, you should remember, is that we had a sharp drop of revenues, both versus 2019, as you can see here in the total income, as well as versus the budget, which we had initially planned for 2020. So when we planned that at the end of 2019. So in terms of drop of revenue, if we compare with the budget, we are talking about a drop of revenue of 27% compared to the budget, and a drop of revenue of about 21% compared to 2019. This 21% I mentioned here excludes the other revenue, which you see under the column of 2020, which are mostly the job support scheme, which have been, for accounting reasons, booked as an income, but which were the so-called JSS paid by the government in Singapore for Singaporean and PR employees. So if we actually kind of cancel this one, as I said, we are talking about a drop of revenue of 21% versus last year and 27% compared to the budget. All business lines were impacted, of course, some more than others. You can see the detail. I will highlight here the business services activities, which were not only impacted compared to 2019, but this is one of the business lines where we expected quite a strong growth of revenue because we were in 2020 in the second year of operating the team France Export, and in our initial business model over 3 years, 2019, 2020, 2021, we were expecting to have quite a strong growth in this activity. And as mentioned by Karine, all these business services and especially team France Export, well, lagged a little bit, but again, it's normal with impossibilities to travel, but also to organize business events or trade shows and so on in Singapore. This had an impact. And as I mentioned, the other income are made of mostly JSS here in Singapore. So it's kind of exceptional income. Regarding the expenditure, basically there was also a strong adaptation of expenditure. Basically, we dropped the operating expenses by 25% compared to the initial budget. So there was a very, very strong adaptation. And this is, again, very, very much related to both the staffing, the efforts by the teammates. The structure of the team has been reviewed. I would like to highlight that most teammates of the French Chamber of Commerce, I think actually all had to take at some point some unpaid leave. There was a JSS from the Singapore government, which of course helped, but there was really big efforts done by the team themselves. We had also we could benefit of some discounts on the rent we pay. This was also kind of by law in Singapore, and of course traveling expenses were far less than initially budgeted. So to sum up, a very sharp decrease of our income compared both to 2019 and to our budget, but a very good adaptation of our operating expenses, which basically led us, as a result of this, to generate a loss before tax of 53,000 Singapore dollars, as you can see, and a loss after tax of sorry, of about 38,000. So there is a taxation income here. It's just for information. It's a deferred tax provision of the previous year, which was cancelled, which was reversed, so which generated a taxation income. Now, just to give you a bit of perspective, the budget for this year was 27 or a loss of 27,000 Singapore dollars. So we end the year with a gap compared to our initial budget in terms of net result of only 11,000 Singapore dollars, which I find is a performance. And for this, I would like really to thank you and congratulate you, Karine, and your team, of course, because again, there has been a lot of adaptability done by the team, by the work, also a lot of work to continue generating revenue in this during this crisis, while controlling operating expenses very, very well, very, very rigorously and vigorously. And this has helped definitely. I mean, the result is here, as I said, a minimal loss compared to the budget. Quickly, if I compare with the with the 2019 loss, just to remind you, 2019 was a year when we had invested, especially in the Team France export, and the loss you see in 2019 was actually better than what we had initially budgeted for 2019. So 2019 was well managed in terms of business, also with less loss than budgeted. And 2020, finally, a very nice result given the circumstances. So yes, we can change now. So on the balance sheet side, the balance sheet is still very, very healthy. As you can see, we have net current assets. So we have basically fixed assets with a net book value of about 250,000 Singapore dollar. We know in the future the chamber will need to reinvest a bit in its equipment and probably also in the office. That's something which we have postponed for next year because we need more visibility. Of course, that's not something we're going to do in 2021, but there will be a need to reinvest in this field at some point. Regarding the current assets, you can see that we have accounts receivable and quite a lot of cash available. I remind you that at the end of December 2020, part of our memberships for 2021 had been paid, which explains why the cash situation was quite high. And on the receivables, there are no risks, so no provision need to be booked for this receivable. There is no risk or no aging receivable. On the liabilities side, sorry, I've not finished. On the liabilities side, we see we have a strong net equities of 1.4 million Singapore dollars. That's the initial capital, the reserves, and the accumulated funds of the previous results of the past years. So it's quite a comfortable situation here. We have non-current liabilities. I will skip them, it's not important. And current liabilities, account payable mostly, but as you can see, the account payable are far less than our account receivable and our available cash. So yeah, at the end of the day, we have a very strong balance sheet with assets and especially cash, which are much higher than our current liabilities. So this gives us, again, same as last year and as the past years, again, a strong balance sheet, a strong position to look into the future and the development of the French Chamber of Commerce. Talking about the future, last and not least, this is the budget for 2021. We have actually done something a bit unusual this year because we have decided two budgets, and one, as you can see, is the best case scenario and one is a worst case scenario. And I think we were right to do that because also we were optimistic at the beginning of the year or end of last year. We had signs that things could turn not as nice as we hoped, and it's kind of the case as you had seen since the beginning of the year worldwide and in Singapore. So the main idea is to recover, of course, in terms of all of our activities, and so far the trend is actually not too bad. We are recovering more or less in the different activities. Good news is that, for example, in terms of membership, today we have reached already more, or we have achieved already more than the best case scenario in terms of membership budget and membership income. For the other activities, they are all very much, well, I would say suspended to the situation here in Singapore and the travel situation worldwide. So which is why, again, we had really a best case, worst case scenario. In terms of expenditure, same, we had a base case and worst case scenario. I think, I don't know, Karine, whether we can see the last line, which is the result. No, sorry, no, we actually cannot see. I cannot see the last line on my screen, but I will give you the figures in this case, just for your.
Best case is 138.
Exactly.
Worst case is minus 215.
Exactly. So that's what I wanted to end with, is that, again, you see that there is some flexibility and adjustment possible on all expenditure, especially staff and other operating expenses. So depending on the income level and on the adaptability or the adaptation of the expenses, we will end somewhere between a profit of 139,000 Singapore dollars and worst case scenario, a loss of 215,000 Singapore dollars. So it's quite a wide range, and we are aware of that. But again, at the beginning of the year, we had not enough visibility to give a fixed budget. What is very important to remember is that even in the worst case scenario, which is, as I said, a loss of 215,000 Singapore dollars, the very strong balance sheet of the French Chamber of Commerce means that there is no issue, there is no risk in the short term. The French Chamber of Commerce can manage, I would say, a bad year. If there was a full impact of the COVID-19 crisis in 2021, we can deal with that financially speaking. So again, thank you, Karine, for the good management of 2020, because that gives us some say, space to breathe for the future. All figures are in the financial statement in the yearly report, so you can read them. If you have any question, I am available later by email or whatever. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stéphane.
Thank you. So now we need to go to the appointment of the auditor for the financial year 2020. Is it Stéphane or?
Absolutely, absolutely. I should mention it also. So that's one of the points on which you were invited to vote since yesterday, which is the reappointment of the auditor. So we have been working with Weldon and Trent International for several years, and we have proposed to reappoint them for 2021. So you will have please to vote on this matter in the electronic vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stéphane. So now for the election of the board members, I give back the mic to Erwan, who is going to take us through this.
Thank you, Pascal. Topic number 5 on the agenda is indeed the election of the board. And as you know, a new board must be elected every other year at the FCCS. The board comprises 30 members, and this year we've got 34 candidates. The profiles of the candidates are available on the website. They are also available on the app when you vote, and you are going to see them on the screen right now. Please bear in mind that unless you abstain, you need to vote for 30 candidates. So if you vote for 28, 29, or 31 candidates, the app will refuse the vote and you will have to adapt your vote. So 30 candidates has to be the number. Please also remember that the voting will close at 6 p.m. sharp, and the results will be posted as per the other resolutions on the FCCS website before 8 p.m. tonight. So with this, Pascal, on to you for the next and final agenda item.
Thank you. Shall we wait for this video to finish, Karine?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about 5 seconds per.
Yeah.
So it's 3 minutes in total. So it gives you, for those who haven't voted yet, you can please use this time to vote.
Okay, thank you very much for this. We had also, we had given the opportunity for the attendees to ask questions in advance of the meeting. There was no question, but one question came during this AGM, which was related also to our action vis-à-vis MOM. So I'm happy also to comment a bit on this, but also if anybody wants to have more specific information, feel free to contact Karine, Lydia, or myself. It's what I mentioned earlier is what one of the things that we have been quite involved and forced to be involved is really this higher level of interaction with the authorities and with MOM in particular. It took under various forms. We were invited by SBF to attend a dialogue session with the Minister Joséphine Théo when she was minister. We did participate also with the CCE or with the embassy to some dialogue with the secretary to MOM. And usually when we do this, we do follow this by written representation in the name of the French Chamber to the ministry. And usually the ministry reply. I would say it's very difficult to measure tangible results. You know, if you're asking, we want more EPs, or obviously more recently the issue about LOC, which is one issue which took the foreign business community by surprise and where we had to react. But I cannot give any measurement of tangible results, but I hope to think that the combined effort of the communities, of the foreign communities, have some effect. What I hear and what I witness in my company also is that even though there is no improvement on, no tangible improvement on LOC, even though they announced some aménagement of the work path to accommodate this, but we seem to see, compared to the situation in January or February, some easing in the granting of EPs or the VAE situation. It's far from ideal, but we think that by tightening on some areas, some others, they give a little bit more on some others. It's my impression, but again, it's difficult to quantify this. But I will be happy to follow up directly on a one-to-one for whoever wants more clarification. So the time to conclude, and of course I would like to conclude this AGM on a personal note, and to first I feel a bit sorry to leave when the chamber is in the middle of the road, if you want, during this COVID. It's never good to leave a company when we are showing a negative result, but I think you understand well this circumstance. It's also important to keep in mind that the French Chamber of Commerce in Singapore is one of the model Chamber of Commerce in the international network. There is a good reason why we were selected for the concession de service public with Business France. And thanks to Karine and her team and to the board, I think we have continued to strengthen this reputation. So it has been for me a great honor to be president during these 4 years, and a great satisfaction because, of course, I have the pleasure to meet and to interact with different people. I think the four main action, if you want, or sort of four main events that I would keep from these 4 years. One is again this concession de service public, which for us was very important for us and for Team France Export, giving the opportunity to work much closer with the embassy, with the CCE, with the BPI, and with the French Tech. The strengthening of our presence in the Singapore ecosystem. Like many of our board members, I did contribute to introduce or refer to some Singapore companies to these CEO meetings. I remember organizing a meeting with Piyush Gupta for DBS, with Samcorp, with Keppel, like many of my colleagues have done. And it's something, of course, that we will continue. And more recently, indeed, this advocacy, which has really, I will not say has been forced on us, but indeed the COVID situation has really given us the opportunity to rise a bit more in terms of visibility to the overall system and to the authorities. So as you understand, many challenges remain. To propose to show a budget of minus 100 or plus 200 or the reverse is pretty broad, but it shows also that the board, and as I said earlier, I'm very glad to see that the vast majority of the board is actually presenting itself for a re-election, which is a proof of the trust and confidence that we have in the sustainability of the business model of the chamber. And of course, I will be very happy. I mean, I'm still technically president for 1 week, I think, or 10 days. But I will be very glad to of course, cooperate or do a nice transition with a new president, which will be chosen in a few days after the board is elected. Thank you very much. So I think we can close the AGM now, Karine?
Yes, I think we can close. It's almost 6 p.m., so we are exactly right on time. As I think everyone mentioned, the votes will end at 6, and we will post them on the website before 8 p.m. this evening, right, Erwan?
Karine, sorry, there is one more question which has appeared in the Q&A. If you want to answer it, it's quite simple. Is where can we find the agenda of future events? So okay. Probably on the website.
Okay, so we sent a weekly newsletter to all our members every Monday. So if you don't get it in your mail, please check in your spam or because or inform us, because sometimes some firewalls, prevent those newsletters to arrive. So we can check that. So, but basically all our members receive this information every Monday, the newsletter. And of course, you can select the committees that you're interested in your profile online. But Olivier, if you have any issue, we're happy to help you.
Okay, thank you. So we can declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all of you. And once again, thank you very much, Pascal, for these great 4 years as president of the chamber. Big warm of applause on behalf of all our members and board members. Thank you very much, and have a very nice evening. Thank you.